So the Tactical Brigade, is on the menu, boys. It was kind of slept on, kind of forgotten about when Mordaka came out and these guys got nerfed because we lost one of our orders. People were just kind of like poo-pooed on it, not because they thought it was bad, but because Mordaka was so much more appealing that once we went back to this, we forgot what we had lost, and we felt as though it was the only option left outside from for our DACA potential. I think we have other potential, but this is the one that has the most allure to the orc community at the moment, and there's good reason for that, but it does take some cunning. So the focus of this detachment strats are typically Storm Boys. A lot of the time, not just the strats, but the characters, because they're giving orders, are very important to this detachment. So you do end up getting a lot of characters on this list too, which some people are fine with Hero Hammer, but then some people get uncomfortable when you start taking 7 characters on the list. And the other strength of this list is actually the choices. I know that seems kind of vague, but as we go through this, you're going to see you're just going to have a lot of choices based off what this detachment gives you access to, which is why it does take good consideration when you're thinking about it's not so linear in this detachment, which is why we brought it up. So other valuable units or gets in this detachment, in my opinion, are still units of boys. Units of boys, units of snaggas, maybe disembarking from battle wagons could still feel very appealing on this list. For the battlefield presence, the ability to protect your gun lines and swing primary objectives. I do still think war bikers are great for scoring alongside storm boys if you don't have them, but you would like tank busters, lootas, flash kits are obviously still very appealing here. I would say typically for flash kits, you go to 5-man units, other than that one big 10-man unit that goes with the Big Mac and Mega Armor, which we'll talk about in a bit. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. As for how you would use these units, a lot of the time people play for a bunch of transports, but you don't necessarily always need to pay for a lot of transports if you're maximizing your strategic reserves. Mork's Cunning is something that's really appealing on this detachment. Not the reason you play the detachment, but it is very important. Now, the wall timing or tempo of this, again, you don't typically want to pull this out as a turn 2 wall. A lot of the time, this is a turn 3 wall. If you can help it, you can get in good fights early in the game with typically using the access to sustained or lethal. Beast Snaggo boys feel good in this detachment for those early skirmishes if you got to punch out an enemy vehicle, because they have access to sustain. But the fact that you also have access to lethal means you can also end up punching up with something like a commando unit, incidentally, with that early pressure, or you can end up punching up with storm boys if you give them strength 5 and you accidentally disembark, run up the field, advance and charge, and then give them sustain or lethal into some sort of screen and then consolidate into another enemy unit. It gives you that early pressure where you can kind of delay the wall. So there is options in the wall timing, but typically you're going to hold the tempo back for later wall. Now, the strengths of this detachment are the enhancements, which would of course typically be the Mech Captain, which is the Big Mech and Mega Armor with the 10 flash kits. This is almost the most important reason why you play this detachment. You would almost never not bring this. So therefore, if you're really appreciating what it does in Overwatch, when it can actually shoot, charge, and fight, it feels great. And remember, in this detachment, you get the ability to fall back, shoot and charge, which is fantastic for a unit like this, considering that you're regenning models and you have a built-in invuln. Now, another strength of this detachment is the secret mission play and the secondary play, right? The fact that you get to redeploy Storm Boys, you get to pick up commandos, but Storm Boys are actually battle line is amazing. The fact that you can throw out these dumb chaff units and then stick stealth on them, like a unit of Grots or a unit of bikers from a big gob mech, or maybe your Gaz or whatever it may be, means that when enemies go to kill those secondary kind of killing units, it takes more commitment, which can kind of over commit them, which would cause them to be out of position, and you can take advantage of that as an orc player. But typically, because you're bringing transports and units like mechs to give orders, you'll have kind of units built in to do secondaries as well, as long as you don't go too overboard with your damage saturation sometimes. But it's a fine line, and it does take some cunning. So like, I want to say the cunning stratagems, a lot of the time you wouldn't look at the stratagems and say the more DACA ones might be better in the typical sense of what is known throughout 40K. If I can just take away your cover, if I get more EP, if I can reroll wounds, if I get access to WAAAGH, those are arguably just better. But these are more cunning strats where fallback and charge is amazing. Giving yourself +1 OC on units of Zod or boys is crazy. Giving yourself the ability to redeploy on a battle line unit so you can score a secret mission is truly cunning in itself. So that's something that's not to be slept on. And as you become more proficient in the army, you realize that you like every kind of stratagem. It really comes down to your decision generalship. You'll appreciate using general stratagems for grenades or heroics, but then you'll also appreciate using ingresses and just built-in strats to the detachment itself. So very cunning stratagem usage in this detachment based off the options you'll have in the units on your list. Then you have the weaknesses, like I said, would be a high character count, which typically just means you don't have as many activations. So you have a lower unit count on this army. I wouldn't say it's low because we're still orcs. It's just lower than other ones, like, for example, Cult of Speed. But you're giving it up for good reasons. Still got to include it. Then I would say something like lack of AP is typically something that ends up being missed on the list, right? So you do have tank busters, so it feels good in that, but because you're still looking to do some DACA damage down the range, your looters and your flash kids don't enjoy it as much, unlike when we spoke about the other orc detachments where on paper those stratagems would be more supportive to DACA. In this one, your stratagem support is really just for your options and your battlefield cunning. So the lack of AP will be felt, which does come down to you and you taking advantage of the Get Finder goggles to ignore cover on one of those units, and then where you're coming in from battlefield reserves, maybe you get better lines of sight. So yeah, not saying it's weak, just had to point those things out. Now, the keys to victory on this detachment, I would say, is battlefield cunning. Just your ability as an orc player to, based off your your matchup, to know how to use orcs cunning. When you're building your list, are you building one of these redeploying? I can redeploy 1,000 points of my army so the enemy can never really nail me down exactly in their deployment, and I can just take advantage of their weak flank and blow through them? Is it I can get options of leapfrogging units, taking advantage of redeploys? Am I taking advantage of the core stratagems of the detachment to flip primary objectives? Am I using tank busters to counter my meta because they have a lot of elite infantry and vehicles? So a lot of battlefield cunning and leadership behind this one. I would say it's really rewarding for the high skilled players, and then if you're getting into it, you might get overwhelmed by the options and the clock and not really see the strength behind it right away. So get stuck in there, lads. Great detachment in itself, and orcs are in just a great place. Be on the lookout for more tactical brigade breakdowns, as now we just have more options with data sheets, and the way of the WAAAGH has changed. Be a cunning git and check out our new order markers that are in our store. So shout out to you gits being cunning. Help you guys get all the orders set on the table nice and clean for all you gits to get stuck in. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!